Fertilizer. Without this commodity, world harvests would be significantly lower. In today's episode of Commodity Brief, we're going to be focusing on fertilizer. Fertilizers are essential for the world's farms in order to keep productions at the level required to feed the population that we have. It's estimated that between 30 and 50% of the world harvest is purely because of fertilizer use. So in terms of fertilizers, we have a number of different types of fertilizers. And essentially we have, first of all, the natural fertilizer and synthetic fertilizer. Obviously, as we can imagine, there's quite a large demand for natural fertilizer because people want to have more bio food. They want to have food which they don't think has had any chemicals added to it. But at the same time, on the synthetic side, it is absolutely vital for the world's farms because we need these quantities of food to be produced. So we're really looking at three different areas. There's the nitrogen-based ones, there's the potassium-based ones, and there's the phosphorus-based fertilizers. And each ones have different properties and are useful in different parts of the world and are produced in different areas of the world. So in terms of the production of fertilizer, we've essentially seen quite a steady growth of the volumes of consumption which we're seeing around the world, and we're at about 190 million tonnes being consumed on an annual basis at the moment. Otherwise, in terms of transportation of fertilizer, we see fertilizer being transported. First of all, we can transport it in bags. We can transport those bags in conventional vessels or in containers. We can also transport it in bulk, and we can transport it as a liquid. Some of the ammonium-based fertilizers are in liquid form. And so here we see some fertilizer flowing into the vessel, and we can imagine a vessel up to 50,000-60,000 tons of bulk fertilizer in the one vessel. Now, in terms of the dangers, the risks of fertilizer, one issue that we do quite often have is what is called caking. And this is essentially when we have bags of fertilizer and there's some liquid that gets some moisture that gets into the holes in the vessel, and this can cause the fertilizer to solidify a little bit. We also have to be careful about spontaneous heating, and it can produce some very, very toxic gases. And so we have to be very, very careful in the manner in which it's transported, and also make sure that when it is transported, it's sufficiently ventilated. But sometimes we have to completely avoid any contact with water whatsoever. So it is a commodity where we have to be very careful with the transportation. We have to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of the trade in fertilizer is concentrated amongst some very, very large companies around the world. So that brings us towards the end of this episode of Commodity Brief, looking at fertilizers. We'll be back soon looking at other commodities, and so please click back soon.